Hey everyone, this is B Valley with another YouTube video. Today we're going to be going over on how to use just a single PC just for streaming and to try and see comparing from what I've used before in the past for single stream PCs and the setup and hardware that I've used for it. So without further ado, I'm gonna switch over to show what I've used. So in terms of PC, what specs that I've had for my PC. This is currently right now my PC specs, right? For my gaming PC. I currently right now what I'm rocking is an 6th gen Intel Core i7 6700K, Corsair H100i, MSI Z170A, 32 gigs of total RAM. One pair of them is two 8GB sticks for total 16 gigs, and then one 16GB stick, so that way I get the total of 32. 2TB, 4TB of memory, so that way I can store games and as well as recordings and stuff. SSD Samsung X60 Evo for boot drive. MSI GeForce TGX 1070. The Cooler Master case, and Corsair 750 wattage power supply, 80 plus gold. Yeah, 80 plus gold. So for a while before, I guess when I first started out 5 years or so ago, this was just enough for me to be able to play all the games that were on PC, and as well as to be able to capture whatever it is I had as well playing on console, for the most part. And for the settings, sorry, not settings, for the microphone and webcam and stuff that I've used Logitech C920 and then C922. The reason why I had the two was because C920, before it got an upgrade to the C922, C920 was the best there was, and whatever webcam technology could at the time. Then the C922 came out with being able to have 1080p 30 and 720p 60 FPS, with as well as a program that came out with a background screen removal. I did try that for a little bit, was not the best. But without actually having a physical green screen, and I didn't want to show my room or anything, that was the best that I could try and do. As well as microphone, I used a Blue Yeti before it became now a Blue Yeti Nano, or a newer version of the Blue Yeti, standard silver USB microphone edition, and it was plug and play, so everything pretty much worked pretty well for that. And as well as an Elgato Stream Deck for the single stream PC. And yeah, that's gonna be everything that I've used, and then for the most part of how I used it. So for in terms of settings, from the one of my previous videos on how to stream and what settings in a sense to use, this is essentially pretty much what my settings were. So on output, on advanced, NVIDIA NVENC encoder, the new one, even the old one before it got updated, but now new one, with a bitrate of 4300. Now I have a little more wiggle room, so I actually stream a little bit higher bitrate. CBR, max quality, high, all that. Audio, desktop, microphone, you choose your microphone. Video base canvas was 1920 by 1080, and output scaled was 720p by cubic and 60 FPS if you wanted that. I didn't really mess with hotkeys or anything in advance or anything else in here in general. Other than that, set up the scenes, and then as well as with the Elgato Stream Deck, it set up the buttons to be able to switch scenes. So I'm gonna go ahead and press a couple of buttons on some things. It won't show anything, only because there's nothing actually showing. But yeah, for the most part, that's essentially it. And for the microphone settings for Yeti that I had, there I used, for the most part, I used OBS Studios filter integration that they had. So I used the compressor, the gain, and the noise gate. No, not the gain. I'm sorry. A compressor, noise gate, and suppression. Those are the three that I used before, and played around with the settings a little bit. You always have to record a test video of how you sound before going live. So always at least test the video, test the microphone settings or the microphone filters that you have in OBS to be able to see if it's going to be any good. Other ways of improving microphone, if you don't have anything like a mixer or anything like that, or USB microphone, would be Voicemeeter Banana or Potato, whichever of the two that's more accessible or easy to use now. Adobe Audio Editions, and as well as Adobe Audio. Oh wait, I already said Adobe Audio Editions. And Reaper. So they have, each of those have like voice plugins, VST plugins, I should say, voice soundtrack plugins, and from there you can you can input those plugins or have the programs running in the background and import them in a sense like to OBS. But for the most part, those were like one of the three programs that I would always like rotate around and see what I use. But I eventually just stuck with using OBS filters only because it was just a whole lot easier instead of having to have other programs running in the background for me while playing games and streaming and stuff like that. Anything else that I probably used for the most part? No, nothing really. So what I would say for like an advantage, right, for just using a single PC to stream is that you have everything all in one place. All your scenes, all your hardware. If anything goes wrong, you can kind of troubleshoot it like pretty quickly, pretty easily. Just be like, okay, what's the problem? What's happening here? Why is this not working right now? Pretty kind of like a pretty simple way to be able to try and just, again, figure out what's going on. So let's say game capture is not working, you can easily like fix it, go into desktop capture or window capture instead. If your voice starts acting up, not your voice, but the voice filters start acting up for the microphone, you can always turn it on, turn it off, see if that fixes it, restart it really quick without having to restart stream or anything of the sort. Same with game capture, like with a video capture device. So like let's say an HD60 Pro, HD60s, or 4K Mark II. You could always, for the most part, like open the program, close it, update it, see if it was an update that you needed, firmware upgrades or anything like that of the sorts. But for the most part, I think that's pretty much it. Disadvantage is that you're going to be putting a lot of load onto your PC in terms of like a CPU when you're playing games, and as well as like your GPU for when you're streaming. Yes, you use both CPU and GPU when playing, but in terms of like when you're also playing and streaming, it's going to be a little bit more taxing on your CPU and your GPU. So even with the NVIDIA NVENC encoder, the new one, the Turing architecture, it still kind of like hits a load on your PC, especially if you have, let's say, overlays or pictures, everything loading up. You have your notifications all going up. You have your stinger transitions and stuff like that. All of that stuff does add up on your CPU for when you're using OBS, and it just can be, again, really taxing on your CPU and GPU for whenever you are streaming and playing games at the same time. But for the most part, some people are able to get really beefy builds to be able to not worry about it too much, or if not, just get like a you know, kind of half decent build and you know, game capture from a console, or as well as maybe going into a dual stream PC setup, which on the next video is what I'm going to be talking about, of like how to set up and like quickly water down of the things that I've used and or the stuff that I use for it. But anyways, anyone that watched the video, found it helpful or anything, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe. I really do appreciate it if you help me out. But for the next video, like I said, it's gonna be dual stream PC. So if anything, stick around for the next one coming up. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.